Welcome to the Working Man Committee Podcast. I am your host, Brandon T, and welcome to the channel. Like and subscribe, it really helps out the channel. We're trying to get the message out there and so forth, trying to grow something here. And with that being said, Working Man, let's talk about something. The Fitch credit rating. Yes, America had a good credit score or credit rating. It's just like having an 800. We had it, we was there, and now we made a mistake. And now we hit that tipping point where our A1 AAA credit rating has been downgraded. Yeah, so we had a AAA, three A's, and now we are 2 plus. Yes, double A plus is what they're giving us now. And Fitch they noted a few things on what the problem is and so forth, why they looked into our credit rating and pulled it down a little bit. They said our debt level was too high. You know what I'm saying? Okay, I can see that. You know what I'm saying? The federal government spends more money than they bring in, more money every day, every month, every year. They bring in more. They spend more than what they get. And then also the Fish looked at the next 3 years. In America, is America getting better in the next 3 years? And they're like, nah, we don't see no changes happening in the next 3 years. And it looked at the debt limit standoff and last minute resolution. Like, hey man, y'all playing games with the bills. Now you know, playing games with the bills is a game you don't want to play in public. You know, so that's one of them games. Hey man, you trying to figure out your bill. That's at the kitchen table. Ain't nobody looking. You got your pad out. You looking. You know what I'm saying? You got Peter over there, Paul over there. You try to figure out who you gonna rob and then who you gonna take care of on the back end. You know what I'm saying? You do that in the comfort of your home, not in the comfort of the world, as the government has been doing, as the legislative branch has been doing, playing these games out front and live, and people, like I said, different groups over here standing in here. Hey, I want to cut this, or I want to spend that, and so forth. They all going side to side, and then, but they're not really talking about anything specific. You know what I'm saying? They culling out the side in a little bit of outside area, and like I said, about to mess the bills up. And they all talk about governance. It's how y'all running your household. And so how is America being ran? And I look at that a few different ways, America. Working man, check it out. So this is we're in a political cycle now. Now a political election is coming up for president. And like I said, you got this year where people are throwing they hat in for the campaign in the race, and people are starting to hold rallies, and about to start being the primary elections and all that stuff, and about to start happening. And you know what America is doing? Merrick Garland told Merrick Garland, the IG of the United States, got a special counsel for Trump, Jack Smith, and told Jack Smith follow the facts wherever they go. So Jack Smith is following him around. Now you would think that you get stuff like that with your political opponents, political opponents, yeah, that gets investigated left, right, and center. So you don't have that in what we say our democracy. It seems like it's kind of what kind of happened in like China, while the guy over there can't be challenged. Russia, while Vladdy's been in office, and then what happened in Venezuela? So Venezuela had all this stuff, and we're doing that stuff, and then like I said, it doesn't matter. I want to put this out to you. It don't matter if you like Trump or don't like Trump. It's like what do you see? You see the same thing that these other countries that quote unquote their democracy is not like ours. The third war, and look and see what they're doing, and we're doing the same thing here. Now, I say, hey, that I think I honestly think Biden, the state of it all, Biden needs to pardon Trump right now, and then let the whole process play out. But hey, that's here nor there, and so forth. But back to the Fitch rating. So Fitch, you know what I'm saying, moved our credit down from AAA to double A. So that's, you know what I'm saying. So now America, you know what I'm saying, the politicians are like, America still, you know, so reserve dollar. Oh, yeah. You don't want to put your money nowhere else. But the freedoms, and you think about what kind of freedoms happening. Political laws, the same things happen in that country over here, that third world country over there, and so forth. And nothing really happening different. But like I said, let's see the reactions around the world about the Fitch downgrading. So let's start right now with our first soundbite. Let's go to Bloomberg, and they was talking about it straight up now. Let's see what they got to say. Go.
Criticisms of this Fitch rating and just kind of chalk it up to, as Ludo kind of said, American bluster versus, Fitch actually is right with this decision. It makes sense. Where do you stand on it?
Well, yes, I think it does make a certain amount of sense. You know, if a country again and again threatens to go into default because it can't sort out the politics, then I think it's very difficult to maintain a AAA rating. It's as simple as that. You know, public sector debt has, of course, gone up very sharply. Longer-term prospects for public sector debt are poor in pretty much all advanced economies and in many, many emerging economies. They're just, the credit worthiness is just not that great. And I think it's a kind of a belated move. But frankly, you know, with a history of credit agencies, I have to say, I never look at credit ratings.
I was going to say, I mean, their view, the public view of credit rating agencies isn't that great at this moment. The timing of this certainly won't help. But when it comes to the fiscal standing of the U.S., with a ballooning fiscal deficit, how much impact will that actually have? We can look and say it's not great, but does it spill over into something worse?
Well, we haven't seen it yet, right? I mean, bond yields are still pretty low, both in nominal and in real terms. So no, I don't think we've seen that yet. But it's, you know, one of those things like current account imbalances is this slightly silly saying, you know, they don't matter until they matter. And when they matter, that's pretty much all that matters. At the moment, no, I don't think that that markets really are particularly concerned about sovereign ratings. They are, of course, concerned about defaults going forward in private companies, that's for sure. I mean, our credit strategists are pretty negative.
Well, Klaus, in terms of the tone that it sets.
All right. So guys sound like got a British accent a little bit. And then some European. Yeah, that twinge in it. And so he said he feels he sounds like he's speaking from outside looking in, like, hey, America, man, y'all, what's going on, America? Y'all ain't doing right. Y'all messing up. And that's how it sounds like he's coming off, and so forth, how we're coming off. And so I'm gonna say this: we really need to look at it. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, those things I mentioned earlier, and he told me about the private companies and the bond yields and so forth. So he's looking at it more of a technical viewpoint and so forth. And let's look at it from what we think. You know, it's not what we think. Let's look at it from the politician's perspective. And so I got Squawk Box or Squawk on the Streets, one of those two shows, where Andrew been a host, and he's asking the House chair, see what he thinks about the rating, and let's see what they got to say. Go.
The recent Fitch ratings downgrade of the U.S. has Capitol Hill buzzing again, this time about deficits and spending, igniting a blame game between the political parties. For more on this, I want to bring in Congressman Jody Arrington of Texas, who serves as House Budget Committee Chair. I want to thank you for joining us this morning. There has been a lot of finger pointing, but ultimately, to me, there's two major questions. What does the Fitch downgrade mean in the immediate term, and does it change the dynamic and conversation around debt and deficits in a way that you think it wasn't before?
Yeah, you're right. Those are great questions. Let me say, both sides have some share of blame here in terms of our unsustainable debt trajectory. and the rapid deterioration of the fiscal health of our country. But I do think the last 2 years and $11 trillion in record spending and the spending induced inflation and the interest rate hikes and an economy that's projected not only by CBO but by Fitch and even the White House's own economist is heading for recession. So we're in trouble. But these are things that I think investors were watching for years now, and I don't think it's a surprise to anybody, sadly enough, because there are some structural problems in our balance sheet, namely mandatory spending, and we have an aging population, the world's largest generational retirement, and we have to rein that mandatory spending in, and we've got to grow the economy faster than we're spending, and that's not happening. And the policies in place today, Andrew, are not going to get us there, which is why all of these negative projections of under 1% GDP this year. Fitch says it's going to be not even 0.5% in 24. We've got to return to pro-growth, pro-energy, and pro-growth policies that will get us back on track.
Chair Arrington, what is your sense of taking on the third rail, which is entitlements? You look at the Social Security funds, and you can do the math. You can do the math with everybody, but nobody historically has really wanted to go there.
Well, we're going to go there. We're going to reveal our 10-year fiscal framework called a budget resolution. Probably most of your viewers haven't heard of that because for the last 4 years, my colleagues, Democrat colleagues, never put forward a budget framework, but we're going to include entitlement spending so that we put our country on a path to balance in 10 years. Part of that is growth. Part of that equation will be right-sizing the bureaucracy. That's the discretionary spending and all the activity around the appropriations process and the debt ceiling agreement. But we will take on welfare and healthcare and other entitlement programs to make them more cost effective, to root out the waste, to give states more autonomy and responsibility, among other things. But yeah, you've got to do that, or you don't get out of this mess. You get more downgrades and potentially a sovereign debt crisis. Now, with respect to Social Security and Medicare, those are very difficult politically. They're used on both sides as a weapon, and so we've made it so that nobody wants to address the shortfall, that those programs will be insolvent within the next 10 years. So you got to provide some mechanism for serious lawmakers on both sides to come up with a consensus like Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill did to address the insolvency, to strengthen the program, and to give assurances not only to seniors but future seniors. At this point, even current seniors, if nothing is done to Social Security, will take a 20% haircut. That's unacceptable. We need to be responsible leaders, and both sides have to.
So, but what does that look like, Chair Arrington? What does that look like for you? I mean, in terms of the position that you would take on Social Security, would you push out the age at which it begins? Not necessarily tomorrow, but push it out for folks, 20 years from now, so they could begin to prepare. Thinking that folks are living a lot longer than when this original, effectively, insurance plan was put into place. Would you means test? What kinds of things would you do?
Yeah, I think here's the problem. As soon as you start picking those out without having Republicans and Democrats in the room, so to speak, saying, let's put the pay-fors and the programmatic reforms, some of which you just mentioned, all on the table. We know that you're going to have both present and both probably in the final analysis, because Democrats want the revenue side and focus on that, and Republicans focus on the programmatic reforms, some of which you mentioned. All have to be on the table, and it's got to be one where we hold hands and jump together in order to save Social Security and Medicare and taxpayers a lot of money, because the longer we wait, the more expensive it's getting.
The working man. Now, did you hear what he said? So he said we need to do pro growth, pro energy, and pro growth systems. So he said, okay, we need to increase what the country does. All right. That's fair. Working man, I agree with that. Let's increase what America does. I'm with you. But why in the same turn is it that you are the problem? What I mean by that is then Andrew asked a question that always get asked: the third rail of entitlements. So, as you working man are the taxpayers, you're paying in for this stuff, and why can't you get anything back? And why is the when it's time to get something back, they don't want to give you nothing back. They ain't nothing to give you back, and so forth, and you become a problem. Think about it. Why is it that Social Security and Medicare is even the conversation of something called an insolvent? Now, working man, look at your past check stub, and look what you see. You see your top line number, your federal taxes, your state taxes if you have them. If you don't have them, hey, kudos to you. But the ones you got the state taxes, then you got Social Security, and you got Medicaid, and so those things come out of your check, and so they're taking that money from you, and then when it's time to hook it back around to give it back to you, we need to change how we get it back to you. We don't want to slow it down how we take it from you. We gonna change it how we get back to you. Andrew's like, hey, why don't you make it older? Make you. So I'm like, I've been so say you start working at 18 to 65. I can't get my Social Security out of it. I've been paying it till the whole time. Now I need to wait till what 65, 70, 75? Like what's happening to the money? But y'all spend money on everything else and so forth. It's like why is it so? It's always snap decisions. Hey, let's cut what we give you. It seems like they don't want you to live a certain way because they you know what? It's like these politicians and so forth. They realize, hey, if I give you too much money, or if I let you have too much of your own money, then you might not go clock in and go wait my table. You might not go clock in and do these other jobs that I think that you should be doing, and so forth. And so, like I said, that in itself is a problem. Like I said, ain't nothing else to cut. That's it. I'm pretty sure the defense bill. But let's go to our next sound bite about let's see about cutting spending. Let's see what they say. Go.
Circumstances, we'd better think long and hard before we actually propose cutting the defense budget. Everybody talks about trimming waste. Everybody understands that there's probably fat that we can get rid of somewhere. The problem is that waste is not a line item. It's not obvious what we cut. And what ends up getting cut is inevitably going to be the result of the political process. Let's put some things into perspective.
Hold on one second. I'm gonna grab it right there, working man. Like I said, I want to grab it right there. So check this out, working man. So he said something about defense spending and what the God. So let's take it this year. The CBO says the National Defense Authorization Bill of this of 2023. The CBO said that this thing's gonna cost. Where my number at? Where my number at? The CBO is it's gonna cost. Give me one second. There it goes. This thing's authorizing a total of 838.8 billion dollars. So you trying to tell me out of $838 that you can't cut nothing? From my understanding, working man, and I might be wrong. Put it in the comments and so forth if I'm wrong. But technically, we're not at war anywhere in the world. I know we you know what I'm saying they try to be the world policeman and be everywhere, but technically we don't have any active war zones, and so we can't cut nothing, not a nickel. Let's we start looking through the budget here. So $317 billion of that 800 is going to operating costs and maintenance. Okay. Operating maintenance. Okay. We want to make sure it all still works. Okay. And then the payroll of the military personnel is $174 billion and so forth. And procurement is 161 billion. So they're gonna buy $161 billion worth of stuff. I'm pretty sure that, like I said, since we're not in the active war zones and so forth, we could cut that number by a lot. I mean, if we're gonna spend 317 on maintenance and keeping what we got working, do we really need a new model? I mean, can we do less of a new model? I mean, like I said, we're not actively using it, and so why do we need to buy more? And then, okay, let's see, what else we got here? Another $138 billion on research and development. Now, do we need a lot more? Maybe. I mean, I guess we could use some stuff and so forth, and make some new stuff. And I said, building new housing. I guess barracks, upgrading barracks. Not with the new barracks, but $16.5 billion on military construction and family housing. How much military construction are we doing? Is this new construction? Can we fix up some other stuff? I mean, can we give some stipends out and let people live off base? I mean, what can we do that can be cheaper? Can't we figure that out and so forth? It just seems that we throwing money. Like I said, there is money to be saved right there, and it's like, what's the problem? And so forth. All right, back to the guy. Let tell you about what I'm saying. How's your fault some more? Go.
All discretionary spending, which includes defense spending, is going to be about 6% of GDP this year. Entitlement spending, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, that's going to be in excess of 15% of GDP this year. That's almost 3 times as big. When we look for the money that has to be cut somewhere in terms of basic fiscal unsustainability, it's got to come from the entitlement programs, which as of right now have a negative $100 trillion liability in terms of the present discounted value of all the money that we know we're going to have to pay. These programs are not going to sustain themselves. As a matter of statute law, there's going to be sudden and painful cuts to Social Security in under 10 years when the trust fund runs out. We can either reform these programs now in a responsible fashion, or we can drive ourselves off the fiscal cliff. That's where the money has to be cut as a basic matter of arithmetic.
Yeah,
Yep. Basic arithmetic, y'all. That the top line of the quote unquote entitlement is, hey, just the top line has got to be cut. And then the fact that you've been paying in it, it's a line item in your paycheck. Every time you get your paycheck, they taking it and going over there and so forth. It ain't like, this is general fund money and they got to chop the general fund up to do it. These line items go for these specific things. And like I said, but where is the money? It's like, I'm gonna cut you and so forth. But I'm gonna give you, but I'm gonna go ahead and just keep increasing the defense budget. Hey, man, nobody wants to challenge the defense budget. Freedom. We need more bombs. Freedom. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can't. It's like, you can't cut it. And then when you think about it, cutting it, you know what they always say, working man. That's how to get you. You know how to? It's a setup, right? So like the NFL, like I said, you always had a military week, you fly over and all that stuff with the NFL and so forth. Funny thing about it is, people work, man. The NFL is not doing that of the kindness of the heart. Actually, the NFL, the military pays for that advertisement and so forth. So it's not a free. What I'm saying, Goodell and all the boys, they say, hey, we love the military that much. Hey, they paying the dollars. And so that's why they do that. And then different stuff advertised, because like I said, the NFL audience is so big that said it's all paid advertisement and so forth. But anyway, but like I said, and then like I said, the White House has ideas about what they're gonna do and so forth, how they're gonna make things different. And like I said, We're gonna in our last soundbite here. We're gonna go to take the White House point of view and see how they're gonna do what they're gonna do. Go.
$1 billion. He says we'll pay for it by increasing payroll taxes on Americans earning more than $400,000. So does his math add up? What do you think?
It doesn't add up. The assumptions behind that budget are unduly rosy. He grossly overestimates Americans' tolerance for paying the kinds of taxes necessary to fund his welfare warfare state. It's just not going to happen. The United States government does not have a taxing problem. Right now, tax revenues as a percentage of GDP are about as high as they've ever been. Over the last 30 or 40 years, they've fluctuated between 14% and 19%. As I said in my recent article, we need to be prudent about this. 20% of GDP is a hard ceiling in terms of the revenues as a percentage of GDP that we can expect from taxes. We're just not going to squeeze any more out of the economy than that, which means that in order to get our spending and debt problems under control, we have to come from the other side of the ledger. We need to rein in spending growth. We need to make, at minimum, we need to make sure that the rate at which federal spending grows is slower than the rate of economic growth. Give the tax base a little bit of a chance to catch up with our monster spending. If we don't do that, then we aren't serious about budgeting. We aren't serious about paying our way. And I would contend that we aren't ultimately serious about self-governance. This is something that we expect every American household to do, to budget. Why can't the federal government do it?
Alexander,
Yeah, and like I said, and so he comes back with the issue. The point. And the point is, hey, it's like, oh, you get the tax money, it's coming in, hand over fist. You just blowing it the other way. You know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, it's like for instance, working man. Say you making the most money you ever made right now. Your check's the biggest you ever made in your whole career, and so forth. And you let the lifestyle creep hit you, and now that this check, you know what I'm saying, is bigger than you ever had. Now you got to supplement with credit card just to make it from month to month, and that's what the government is doing, and so forth. And then, like I said, but then Biden's got this funny thing where he's like, oh, 400,000. You make more than 400,000, you good. You make less than 400, you good. Don't worry about it. We just want those folks. Like I said, but it ain't even about the income. Cause like I said, y'all spend it more. Y'all spent 800 billion on the defense spending, and then you know what I'm saying, all the rest of the money gets spent. I mean, y'all create a bill. Y'all pass bills left, right, and center all day, and all of them come with a dollar figure. It's like, oh, how can we get ahead and so forth. But with that being said, y'all, Fitch downgrade to double A. Unless we do something the next little bit, we're gonna only have one A. And so, well, with that being said, this has been a Working Man Committee podcast. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, helps the channel, and we'll see you later. Peace.